Well, let's talk about Caitlin Clark, because she's the breakout star of the WNBA right now with the highest salary in league history. Yeah.
This is like picking at an old scab for many women. And there was something about it, like I was imagining the little girls with the signs who were filling the stadiums, who are now obsessed with basketball with signs that say Caitlin.
Comes as women's college basketball has never seen a bigger star than Caitlin Clark.
You know, it's true. There has been no one like Caitlin.
With a no-look pass, Caitlin Clark broke through the WNBA's century-old glass ceiling, spun the league's stale old playbook into confetti, and walked into seven-figure territory like she owned the gym. No, this isn't one of those someday she might stories. We're talking about her immediate rookie season, not about eventual stardom or slow-burning success.
There was incremental growth in the WNBA comparatively to the exponential growth we are seeing now. What I'm about to tell y'all I haven't heard before, so I doubt you have either. Before the 2023 season, the WNBA had grown by 40% viewership from 2022 to 2023. But with Caitlin Clark's arrival, it's grown by 400% viewership. What that means is if the WNBA were continue to grow at the rate it grew from 22 to 23, it would take until 2028 to do what Caitlin Clark did this year. Okay, now let's not talk viewership, let's talk ticket sales. Bear with me. Ticket sales grew in 2023 by 16% from 2022. Ticket sales have grown by 93% in 2024. What that means is without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA would have taken till 2029 or 2030 to get to where Caitlin Clark has gotten them today.
Without endorsements. Not as a side gig, not in some idealized future, but as a straight-up wage of $1 million or more from playing basketball in the WNBA. The same league that once required its players to travel abroad to coach and work during the off-season in order to pay for college. The move to the WNBA wasn't a step up for Caitlin Clark. Rather, it was a detonation, a seismic disruption. She didn't simply show up. She arrived with enough force to shake the foundations of the entire league. Hoops understood she was different. She wasn't just dominant, she was generational.
The WNBA season hasn't even officially started yet, but the impact Caitlin Clark is having is still insane. First, you gotta keep in mind what she's already been doing. Caitlin brought in an estimated $36 million to Indianapolis last year in her very first season with the team. She was also credited with generating 27% of the entire league's economic activity that season. Fever jersey sales increased by 1,193%, which is...
When she was drafted, she became not just the story, but the story. She transformed preseason excitement into prime-time headlines, and for those who were anticipating a long build, it was too late. She surged past all expectations before they could even update the scoreboard. Let's get things straight. Caitlin Clark is not a recent sensation, a social media algorithm experiment, or media fluff. Rather, she is a motion-captured legacy with a rich past.
That Caitlin Clark has become the Taylor Swift for all of women's sports. She's easily recognizable in everything she does, and it's turning new generations of fans to her. It's bringing new generations of women and men to sports that maybe they weren't covering before. It's getting a level of interest that is far beyond the game that's being played. We can continue to debate the career process for Caitlin Clark and what's going to happen. But what this shoe deal proves to all of us and reminds all of us is that there are sometimes some people are larger than any one particular game that they play. Caitlin Clark has accomplished that already.
She is a real-time record breaker, the kind of athlete whose influence cannot be limited by game recaps or stat sheets. She is changing the fundamental narrative of women's professional sports, and she is doing it without recoiling as other athletes are introduced. After years of trying to regain its breath, the league announces Clark as if it were a cultural event. With rookie salaries set at $76,000 and top-tier veterans barely scraping together $250,000, WNBA players have had to put up with what can only be called professional purgatory. Perhaps if they were fortunate enough to be dominant and highly recognizable, marketable.
According to Sports Pro, Caitlin Clark is the fourth most marketable athlete in the world. Yeah, not just female athlete, not just in the United States, but in the entire world.
Caitlin Clark for being named Time Athlete of the Year. I get why people are so upset. I'm a basketball player and a basketball fan. There's a lot of dynamics and a lot of layers to this thing when it deals with Caitlin Clark. But I will say that this is just my opinion. It's certain people, I don't care if you're black, white, Spanish, from Europe, it doesn't matter. That have it, that draw something, okay? And Kate is one of those. Marketable because people tend to resonate. I don't care, black, white, whatever it may be. Now, there is a race component to it. It always will be in some regards, okay? But the player itself, the person, what she was able to do, how she resonated, how she drew eyes to the TV.
And all of that while male NBA bench warmers, yes, the men whose main athletic contribution is keeping the folding chairs from blowing away, were cashing checks that dwarf the Indiana Fever's entire payroll. That's not hyperbole, it's just basic T. Math with a dash of outrage. For decades, the WNBA operated in the background of professional sports, surviving on loose change condescension and an annual 5-minute highlight reel that was crammed in between late-night sports channels and cornhole. Tournament players weren't traveling abroad for the glitz. Rather, they were there to make ends meet while slogging through international leagues in order to pay for rent, health insurance, and possibly a functional knee brace. The idea of a WNBA million-dollar contract seemed as unattainable as a unicorn, dunking a basketball, but suddenly, before she even played a professional minute, Caitlin Clark not only broke the mold, but also set it on fire, danced on the ashes, and gave the league a brand new blueprint. By the time her draft night jersey was gone in 60 minutes and her away games sold out like Beyoncé was opening for her, Clark had already turned the WNBA from a niche curiosity to a primetime obsession. Suddenly, the WNBA wasn't just a league, it was an event, and Clark was the spark.
This girl right here is a box office attraction. And because of her box office attraction, it's generating more eyeballs to the WNBA product, therefore more revenue for the WNBA profit.
TV networks. They went from treating the WNBA as background noise to vying for broadcast rights like it was the Super Bowl on ESPN, ABC, and Amazon Prime. They all dove headfirst into the craze, pushing their way into the conversation to capitalize on the Clark effect. Caitlin Clark wasn't just an athlete, she became a media powerhouse. SportsCenter didn't just cover her highlights. They practically rebranded segments around her every move, from logo threes to no-look assists. Ratings didn't just increase, they skyrocketed headlines and social media buzzed all at once. WNBA games were the main event, primetime blockbuster, matches that millions of people watched. Not that languid interval between competitive cornhole and obscure European darts. What was once easily ignored became front-page news. Athletes took attention, celebrities appeared courtside, and children wore her jersey. Clark did more than just attract viewers. She injected vitality, excitement, and relevance, pulling the league off the periphery and into people's living rooms throughout the country. She gave the league a face that people couldn't ignore, redefined marketability and rekindled fan engagement. In addition to elevating the WNBA, Caitlin Clark made the sports world take notice and finally pay attention.
Man, we all knew this was coming. I mean, this is no breaking news to me. I mean, she's box office. She's top billing with however you want to use it. Yo, man. Everybody, obviously they're selling out. Everybody wants to see it. Well, maybe not everybody. I'm sure there's going to be some pushback on this topic. But yo, man, it is what it is, man. Let the stars be the stars. Let the money come in. And if you feel a way, I'm talking to the other WNBA players that may feel a way. Yo, man, play back.
Since numbers don't lie or give a damn about your feelings, let's speak about them instead of hot takes on television news. 54 million people watched the WNBA season alone, which is not just a bump, but a tectonic shift. NBA attendance is at its greatest level in almost 20 years. That's right. Fans are flocking to arenas as if it were the playoffs, and game telecasts are casually surpassing the million-viewer threshold week after week, as if it were the new normal. What caused one name to change? Caitlin Clark didn't just join the league, she exploded into it. She turned women's basketball from a niche interest into a cultural phenomenon, and you no longer had to sift through obscure sports apps or late-night highlight reels to get a glimpse of the action. The WNBA content was front and center, trending, going viral, dominating the conversation, and not because people were guilt-tripped into supporting women's sports. No fans showed up because Clark made it electrifying, electric, and impossible to ignore. She brought the fireworks, the swagger, the no-look passes, and logo threes. She made the WNBA a must-see television, and for the first time in a long time, the world finally tuned in eagerly and in record numbers.
And the team saw a 265% increase in attendance. The Fever also led the WNBA with 90 active sponsorship deals last season, and they saw a 415% increase in social media followers. Now heading into the 2025 season, Caitlin is already finding ways to break more records. In a preseason game against Brazil at Carver Hawkeye Arena, tickets sold out in less than an hour, and the average resale price of those tickets was more than some NBA playoff games. Regular season ticket prices are also up over 100%. There is no stopping the Caitlin Clark.
Let's not skirt the issue in the locker room just yet. Indeed, Caitlin Clark's race, white, has caused some individuals to feel uneasy when talking about equity and representation in women's athletics. It's a legitimate and important discussion. In American sports, race has always influenced who is seen, who receives funding, and who is recognized. But let's be clear, basic numbers cannot be whitewashed. You cannot erase TV ratings that destroy records, ticket stubs flying off the shelves, or item sales where Clark jerseys are essentially printing money. She is reinventing how the game is played, not just playing it. With 40-foot bombs, brilliant assists, and an unrepentant swagger that made even the most casual fan pay attention, Caitlin Clark didn't just walk into the spotlight, she blasted her way there. She's taken a league that mainstream sports fans have traditionally ignored and made it impossible to ignore her success. Doesn't negate the more significant racial factors at work, but it does highlight the fact that in professional sports, statistics count, whether they are in the form of revenue, points, or spectators. At this moment, the scoreboard is truthful. Clark is succeeding in ways that are changing the whole terrain.
Hey, we've talked ticket sales and we've talked viewership. Now let's talk about regular season viewership, not draft viewership. Regular season viewership, it grew by 20% in 2023. It's grown by 180% now, which means it would take another 5 or 6 years to do what Caitlin Clark has done. So between draft day viewership, which is up 400% to 40%, between ticket sales, which is up 93% to 16%, between regular game viewership, which is up 180% to 20%, what Caitlin Clark has done is grown the WNBA exponentially. She did in 5 weeks what would have taken 5 years. And as it pertains to draft viewership, she did in 5 days what would have taken 5 years. So yes, the WNBA was growing before Caitlin Clark. Make that abundantly clear. But it was growing incrementally compared to the exponential growth you're seeing now. And this is just data, this is just objective facts. Be mad with data, please do not be mad at me.
She is now the league's engine as well as its face. And you know what came after her ascent? Real money. This is what equality looks like when the market speaks. Clark became the first woman in league history to break the $1 million salary threshold from basketball alone, not from dancing on TikTok or appearing in car commercials as a guest star. Here is the financial breakdown for those keeping receipts. An 8-year, $28 million Nike deal with her own signature shoe, the richest shoe contract ever for a female basketball player. High-profile sponsorships from Gatorade, State Farm, and Panini. Off-season bonus incentives from Commissioner Cup and playoff runs, which bring in up to $250,000 in off-season bonuses. And let's not forget her NIL valuation before she even went pro, a jaw-dropping $3.4 million. This is no longer a side gig. This is a financial movement.
Caitlin Clark has done it. She is now the highest paid women's basketball player of all time before she ever set foot on a WNBA court. As we can see, the AP News has already said that the deal is allegedly going to be around an 8-year deal, about $28 million, and again, a signature shoe. And now, we can start complaining about Caitlin Clark's WNBA salary because yes, the salaries need to go up, but overall, she's going to be okay. She's getting paid. And the people that are like, well, she should have stayed at Iowa. She would have made more money than Iowa. Well, not really. She had a Nike deal at Iowa. It wasn't worth this much money. Like, the deal at Iowa expired. This deal is longer. It's more total value. She would not have gotten this Nike deal if she was at Iowa, especially only for one more year. And overall, this just shows that her aura right now is next level. She's like 2002 LeBron James. LeBron James was in high school. He was already being called the chosen one. He had the big Nike deal before he ever took a bounce of a basketball on an NBA floor. Caitlin Clark is just next.
The WNBA used to hold the profoundly held, almost religious beliefs that women's basketball was something you supported out of morals rather than excitement, that visibility wasn't scalable, and that women's sports simply couldn't produce money. Then Caitlin Clark remarked, "Hold my Gatorade." In addition to dispelling those myths, she embarrassed them by exposing the myth that, with proper marketing, women's sports cannot be profitable. She demonstrated that, rather than fan interest, the true problem was league neglect, as her games were packed into brutal schedules against the most formidable teams from day one. The ratings exploded, and fans binge-watched every arena she entered, making every clip of her plays go viral in a matter of minutes. She trends before, during, and after every game, and her jersey is a collector's item before tip-off and social media forget it. This isn't just talent, it's gravitational pull. For the first time in the league's history, the WNBA is beginning to treat one of its players like a corporate asset rather than a charity case. Caitlin Clark is not just playing the sport, she is the sport.
The conversation around greatness can have nothing to do with the conversation around being a cultural phenomenon. And now, there is no debate that Caitlin Clark has become exactly that.
Not everyone is popping champagne, of course. Some veterans, like Angel Ree and A.A. Wilson, have rightly expressed their frustration by pointing out the excessive media attention and raising their eyebrows at the optics, and they're not incorrect. These women led the league in its darkest years without even a network segment, so their annoyance is understandable. But here's the harsh reality. The market gave Caitlin Clark the limelight. She didn't steal it. Instead, the world saw her perform. That's capitalism, not favoritism. When Clark performs, people don't just watch. They participate by leaving comments, reposting, and purchasing cheerleading songs. She is more than simply an athlete. She is a cultural asset and a marketing supernova. People wait hours to see the player they name their children after, and they regard her as the future. Children are imitating her shape in driveways, and adults are changing their schedules to watch her live. To be honest, she is...
Because when Caitlin Clark walks into a coffee shop in the middle of nowhere, people recognize her. Because when you are on Saturday Night Live and every news and entertainment network along the way, not just sports networks, you've risen above the conversation about your play and you've become a cultural phenomenon. Sure, we can debate the great players that came before and where she stands in that process. We can talk about the transition to the WNBA and where there could be difficulty for her in her game. We can talk about all those things and what it means for her greatness on the floor. Now, to sustain her status as a phenomenon, she may need to accomplish some of that greatness. But right now, none of that matters. Brands invest because brands know that there is going to be equity made.
If you like losing money, go ahead and wager against the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark's influence, which is already having a profound impact on the league. She hasn't even just joined the league. She has completely changed its value proposition. Angel Ree's visibility is soaring simply by virtue of being in Clark's media orbit. For years, the power dynamic has been changing. This period is over, and the WNBA can no longer afford to consider pay and marketing as afterthoughts. In their own league, the players were treated like undermarketed side notes. The league's executives have finally realized that they cannot create a sustainable company while undervaluing their best players, and Clark's presence is a walking, talking three-point shooting argument for investment. The audience is growing and the goods is flying off the shelves, so this isn't about being kind, it's about surviving. Networks are taking notice, and the WNBA is forced to change quickly in order to expose its resources and pay. In addition to raising the bar, Clark has completely destroyed the previous one and put up a bright neon sign that says, "Value us or get left behind." The standard has
Caitlin
undergone a
Clark
permanent revision.
charging an arm and a leg, and I'm pretty sure your firstborn child for 30-minute virtual speaking engagements. Caitlin Clark's team revealed that her 30-minute virtual speaking fee starts at $100,000. Clark has had 6 speaking events in the past year, which would be a minimum of $600,000 just from virtual speaking engagement. Folks, the fees start at $100K. I'll pick up my phone for $100K. I might not say yes, but at least